Find a seat. It's a little bit hard to do these breathing practices lying down. So if you can start sitting up, and you can be in a chair, it's totally fine. The main thing I'm looking for you is that you can be upright. And I'm gonna spotlight myself so you can see a little bit more of me as we get into the practice. That you can be upright, and that instead of whatever your seat is on throwing you back into a rounded shape, which sometimes happens when we're on the couch or in a chair that's not quite right, is that you sit with the back of your hips higher than the front of your hips, so that your tilt of your pelvis is ever so slightly forward. And that will make it easier for your spine to be long, your head to be right up on top. So you can imagine that there's something here that's not coming through your effort, but it's coming from the fact that your pelvis is balanced in a way that your spine can float on top of it. So you're not using a lot of muscles in the low back to keep you upright. You fall that way. All right, so as you feel your seat, and you can experiment with this by rolling back and forward to feel what it's like to fall into the back body, to feel what it's like to overfall forward, and then to land someplace in the middle. Maybe pull your butt flesh back. Get on the front of your sitting bones. That's also a clue that your pelvis is oriented in the way that I'm hoping it is today, is that you're on the front of your sitting bones, even heading towards your thigh bones. And then take your hands around your rib cage and lift your back ribs a little higher and faster than your front ribs, because we tend to poke the front ribs forward. So back ribs higher than the front ribs. And see if you can feel like your pelvis is just slightly tilted forward, and then that should help your rib cage feel like a cylinder going up. And then you may find as you continue to sit here that there is an element of not rigidity, but rocking a little bit. And not a big rock probably, but maybe from side to side, maybe from front to back, a tiny subtle undulation that there's movement both with the breath. Your body is free to keep exploring what is centered. Centered is not a place. It's not an end point. It's an exploration ongoingly. And then let's work with Bhastrika today. A strong inhale, strong exhale. We'll use the arms reaching up, inhale, down, exhale, as if you're reaching for something. Sometimes we call this prana pulling, as most of you know. So we'll inhale up, we'll exhale down. You might want to have a Kleenex handy if your nose is at all, full of stuff, because it's going to come out with this practice. So just a few rounds of watching whatever breath is here this evening. And then finish the next exhalation and join in. And slow inhale out and up as you finish. Palms down as you exhale. Pause and feel. And there's a different feeling from, like, I like the feeling of being buzzed and having some energy. I don't like the feeling of feeling anxious. And those two feelings sometimes are close together. One is a feeling that charges me. The other is a feeling that makes me want to jump out of my skin. So if you're feeling, we're going to do this round again, if you're feeling anything that feels uncomfortable, then either go slower, or if you know what mountain breath is, you can do a round of that with us now while we're doing this. So I'm going to demonstrate the slower version of Vastrika for the first 3 rounds, and then I'll speed it up, and you can keep going slower if you like. So finishing your next exhalation, here we go. And then again, an inhale and a slow exhale. And then as always, feel whatever is here for you. One of the themes for tonight is feeling our embodied empowerment. And so do you feel more powerful when you do this practice or less powerful? Not power over anything, but within yourself. Do you feel charged and nourished or not? And then for mountain breath, bring the fingers down onto the floor, fingertips, turn the palms up and extend the arms out and up. And when the arms get overhead, you're going to interlock the fingers with the index fingers going up. And then usually as you reach up with the fingers, there's a little bit more of an inhale here. And then as you exhale, the arms are coming down and you press on the tops of your thighs to finish the exhalation. You might even draw the belly back and in. And then the palms turn up and you do a full cycle of breath, letting the breath do whatever it's doing. I can scoot back here so you can see a little bit more. And then when you're ready, inhaling again, lengthening up, exhaling slowly, top of the thighs pressed down, belly drawn in, and then palms rest open on the tops of the thighs. Sometimes I like to do 2 rounds of just nothing happening before I go to the third, or before I go back to the mountain reach. So inhaling all the way up, time the movement here so that you finish the inhale when you're all the way up, and then exhaling down, time the exhalation so that you finish when you push on the thighs. Usually there's a little more exhale, drawing the belly in, and then palms up for 1 or 2 rounds. Now continue on your own, feeling this cycle. When you're reaching the arms both up and down, there's a sense of a little bit of resistance in the air. So let that be part of what you're feeling, like you're really reaching up against the weight of the air, especially on the way down. If when you bring your arms overhead, you sway into a big back bend, then let your arms be a little bit in front of you so that you feel like you're growing up tall rather than doing a big sway backwards. And in your own timing, and I'll be quiet for the next 3 rounds, 3 more complete rounds of mountain breath. And when you finish that third round, sit quietly, feeling the effects. And so as we move into meditation, the invitation tonight is to explore your own embodied empowerment, and I'll offer some guidelines about that. If you have other intentions, by all means, be present to whatever is alive in you. And we've been focusing for the last few weeks on discovering our inner and our outer resources. Also, a couple of weeks ago, we did a Shakti scan where we noticed some experiences about how we use our power inside our lives. And my thinking and hope is that as we name and use our resources, there is a growing sense of agency, of empowerment in your life. And this is a tricky word in, yoga circles and spiritual circles. We don't certainly want to have any kind of special power that gives us an egotistical edge over anybody else. We want to understand our interconnection. And yet for many of us, that means that we disown any of our power, including that which comes from life itself. And that can be problematic in my experience. That life itself is offering us energy. She's offering us breath and food and nourishment and friendships. And consider here all the list of your resources that you've come up with over the last few weeks. Using these resources allow us choice and allow us to live out our dharma in the world, our job, so to speak, the job we came here to do in this life. And one of the great tools that meditation offers us is the fullness to be with the full challenge of feeling like under some circumstances we're too much and people are telling us to sit down and be quiet or to do less. And then in other circumstances, we are not enough. This is a very common dichotomy, seemingly opposite experience within many of our worlds. Particularly as many of us are women, we are kind of taught to sit in the corner and behave. And when we don't behave, we're told we're too much. But then at other times we drop into the parts of ourselves that really don't know that we have any value at all. And so dropping into a meditative state to hold both of these qualities, both and, in our bodies and in our hearts. And while in some regards this feels very personal, in another regard, and please hear me on this, this is part of our culture and it's not personal at all. It's just part of our training. For some of us, when we're actually feeling empowered in some way or excited, we actually tamp that energy down. And when we're feeling unworthy or not good enough in some way, we can't find our energy. And take a few moments to feel into what your whole system knows about this. And that there are no parts that need to be shut off here. And if it feels okay to flow into a related exploration, consider some times when you felt really empowered in just the way you love, as if you were living from your full authenticity, your full integrity, you are fully inspired. And you might even let some memories come of times when you felt like, yes, I'm in my life and it's great, just exactly where I need to be. I'm the fullness of myself and it's perfect just as it is. And it might even be a little exciting. And if you have one or maybe several memories of what this is like, take a moment to feel what that feels like in your body. This feeling of inner alignment with lots of energy. Kind of yes feeling, or vroom, or rah. You might in your own space make whatever sounds feel appropriate for yourself. If you like the feeling in your body, you might see what the sound is that goes along with this feeling and let that sound be your mantra for this week or this winter. And it's not uncommon that when we consider a time of power, empowerment, that also other times show up as well, the times when we felt disempowered, we felt weak, without agency. And so if any of those times are coming up for you, know that these opposites always arise together. And so it's completely natural that sometimes when you didn't feel like you had any power at all might show up right now. And so feel into the experience of this, even if it's a little uncomfortable, if it's okay, what does it feel like in your body those times when you didn't have agency? You didn't know what to do, you didn't feel in alignment. And if for whatever reason this evening that's not comfortable for you to stay there, then go back to a time of feeling empowered or even a feeling of neutral. And shifting back to a time when you felt empowered, maybe even as I name that again, a new memory might show up, or you might get a little more clarity of the feeling. You might find yourself sitting up a little taller, not so much with a set of the jaw, like, a superhero figure, but just you're living in yourself as yourself, doing your own work in a way that feels authentic. No tension need be here, just a sense of being filled up. Fully resourced, if we continue with the theme that we've had this month, fully resourced, filled up. Now, what would it be like to feel both fully empowered? It's like you're including all parts of yourself, the parts of yourself that feel fully empowered, the parts that aren't so sure, and the parts that feel disempowered, letting all be here at once, because it's true, we do have all these parts within us. So truth wins out, letting everything be here just as it is. All rolled into one amazing human. And that's totally fine that you have parts that feel disempowered, totally fine that you have some parts that are sort of, not sure, and totally fine that you have parts that feel fully empowered. And here you are as yourself. And what does this feel like to include everything? And then even on a deeper level, the power that you experience, it's really not even your power. It comes through you as an individual human with certain habits and qualities and personalities, but it's life energy itself that is empowering. And it's shimmering and shining and flowing through your body, your nerves, your subtle energy pathways. And as it says in Radiant Sutra number 44, energy sings as it moves through you. There's a kind of vibratory sound, shimmering sound. As your electrical system is filled up with all that you need. allowing whatever sense of your own empowerment here to resonate, flow through you as we steep for a couple of minutes in whatever is here from the breathing and from this meditation. Sometimes the question I ask at the end of a meditation is I'm just sitting in a very open stance. And I just ask the question, is there anything more for me to know about this evening? And then I have an open space for response to come. And if you like, you can continue sitting for as long as it works for you. And if you want to come back to the group for a moment, you're welcome to do that.